Now on Denver 7 News.
My God, I never thought in my lifetime at my age that I would live to see something like this in my community.
We're learning more about the deadly shooting in New York, the lengths the suspect took to target a specific store, and why it's being called a hate crime.
I didn't know we were going to be stuck with a problem that I knew was developing south and east of us.
Coloradans paying for a Texas storm. The surge in energy prices to make up for millions of dollars lost in a disastrous snowstorm.
It doesn't seem to make sense.
2 Aurora schools in danger of closing, parents now fighting to keep them open, why they say the district isn't being transparent.
And special delivery, the belated Mother's Day gift thrifters in Littleton have been waiting for.
We are starting with breaking news tonight. A very visible fire getting some attention in Aurora right now. Look at this. This is near Havana and Smith Road. It looks like a huge fire. Denver Fire says this is a large pile of Christmas trees being recycled that caught fire. No homes have been affected at this point, and we will continue to monitor this situation and provide updates as we learn more. Meanwhile, we want to keep you updated on this. Crews are still working to put out a couple of other fires across the state tonight. The High Park fire is burning more than 1,100 acres west of Cripple Creek. It's only 10% contained tonight. This fire started Thursday and more than 100 people have been evacuated. Also, the Ute Pass fire in Durango is now sitting at 50% containment. That fire burned about 30 acres and the cause is still under investigation. We have some new details tonight following the mass shooting in Buffalo, New York today.
The suspected shooter has been charged with murder and ordered to be held without bail. Investigators say they're investigating the attack as a hate crime. Authorities say 18-year-old Peyton Gendron went into the Top supermarket in a predominantly black neighborhood and opened fire. 10 people were killed and several others were injured. Police say Gendron made it a point to go to this specific store.
The shooter was not from this community. In fact, the shooter traveled hours from outside this community to perpetrate this crime on the people of Buffalo.
Wow. Investigators are combing through multiple online postings they believe Gendron made. Authorities say some of those postings praise South Carolina shooter Dylan Roof, who killed 9 in a Charleston church. And he also praised the New Zealand mosque shooter. Gendron's next court appearance is scheduled for Thursday morning. Contact Denver 7 is hearing from many folks who are just angry about possible higher bills from Xcel Energy.
Yeah, this stems from the historic ice storms in Texas last year and the cold snap that stretched through Colorado and across the country. Well, a judge has ruled this week that Xcel can recover more than $500 million through higher customer bills.
Denver 7's Rob Harris hears from an upset customer and breaks down what could come next.
The ruling this week from a judge is not final. It's recommendation to the Public Utilities Commission. But it says that Xcel should get the green light to increase rates on customers in Colorado for 2 years to absorb higher energy costs during extreme cold weather last year.
I was shocked, basically.
Brian Treacy says he's been living in Westminster and mindful of his electricity use for almost 30 years. And that's why he's surprised and mad that he and his fellow customers could be on the hook.
I've never seen this incident like this happen. I've seen the rate increases, but nothing paying for a shortfall for a cold freeze that we prepared to pay for here, but not for another state.
This is not the first time Coloradans have been asked to shoulder the costs of energy from last year's cold snap. In April of last year, several customers of other utility companies reached out to us after receiving bills that were hundreds and even thousands of dollars higher than expected.
You paid $6,000 for this one day.
The rate increases from Xcel would not be as high, but even still, Brian Treacy says it's the principle.
I mean, we get cold weather here and we're prepared to pay for it, but not because somebody else doesn't get cold weather. We have to pay for that. They live there for warmer weather. We don't wait if they're cold weather there. That's the bottom line.
Governor Polis says he wants to see the Public Utilities Commission establish specific actions that can be taken to reduce energy usage before extra fees are imposed for future events. Colorado's Office of the Utility Consumer Advocate plans to appeal this decision. In the newsroom, Rob Harris, Denver 7.
I don't think anybody's looking forward to those higher bills. Rob, thank you. All right, getting a new car these days requires a lot of patience. Supply and labor constraints continue to put a dent on new car inventory across the state. According to the Colorado Automobile Dealers Association, new car sales were down 10% statewide and 15% nationally in the first quarter. It's forced dealerships to pivot and pre-order cars for customers so they can get exactly what they want.
It was a slice of the business. It might be 10 or 15% of the business. Now we're seeing about 70, 80% of the business are people custom ordering what they want because the selections are low.
Industry experts say it may take until 2024 for the new car sales market to normalize. Nearly 100 people came together today for a rally in Aurora to show support for two schools that are in danger of closing.
As Denver 7's Christian Lopez shows us, these parents and teachers feel their voices aren't being heard, and they're fighting to keep their schools open.
Parents and teachers from Sable gathered to have their voices heard. They say that they are a very tight-knit community and they would be heartbroken if their school were to close. They also say they feel like the school board is not being transparent when it comes to the reasons why they're closing certain schools.
This is not just a decision about balancing a budget. This is a decision that will have ripples for generations of communities in Aurora.
It doesn't seem to make sense. I keep just trying to find somebody to make it make sense to me.
Adam Woods has two kids who attend Sable Elementary. He and several other parents, teachers, and students are fighting to keep their school open. Back in March, the APS Board of Education was looking at closing Sable and Paris elementary schools due to a drop in enrollment. The vote didn't pass, but now it's back on the table, leaving many people wondering why.
We're all left really perplexed and dismayed, not only about the criteria for closing schools, but also for how the process works. Their board policy is very confusing.
I understand that hard decisions need to be made, but we don't need to make hard decisions for the sake of making hard decisions. We need to actually understand the reasoning behind why we're doing what we're doing and figure out, if that's really the best course of action.
Some in the community say these school closures would have long-lasting impacts in Aurora for generations to come.
It's a decision about whether the institutions in our students' communities are for them or against them.
It would be painful because our community relies on our school, not just for educational services, but other services.
In a statement, APS Board President Debbie Gherkin said in part, quote, "We recognize that this continued uncertainty is both difficult and upsetting. Please know we take our responsibilities as board directors very seriously and consider every aspect of these critically important decisions, including the impact on the community." Now some parents, like Woods, are considering whether or not they want to stay in the district.
You gotta try to figure out if I'm even gonna continue to send my kids to APS, or if I'm gonna try to enroll them somewhere else. I'm not sure.
The school board will be discussing the possible closures of Sable and Paris schools during their next school board meeting on Tuesday. No word yet, though, on whether or not they could make a decision, but teachers from Sable say that if they do move forward, that school could close as early as next May. Reporting in Aurora, I'm Christian Lopez, Denver 7.
My body, my choice! My body, my choice!
Hundreds of Coloradans spent the afternoon marching and chanting at the Capitol in support of abortion rights as part of the Bands Off Our Bodies movement that had rallies all across the country. Counter-protesters were at Colorado's Capitol as well. We received a statement on these protests from Respect Life Denver. It says, in part, we acknowledge the deep pain and woundedness that women feel and want them to know that we have answers of hope, healing, and empowerment regarding their fertility as well as their inherent value and dignity.
All right, still to come. You just never know what you'll find at a thrift store.
You really don't. How this storefront became a maternity ward for one special goose.
And don't look now, but that's actually a couple of rain showers showing up on radar over northeast Colorado. I'll let you know if there's any more moisture in our 7-day forecast.